Last night, we spoke to a SoFi insider, and he revealed the company's methodology, testing, ideation, how they approach feedback gathering, and releasing new products. All of this was very insightful. And in addition to these insights, he also shared some crucial details about SoFi's upcoming product launches, and more importantly, on the company's AI strategy, which is a part of SoFi that they don't talk about at all. And this is unique, exclusive information that we got firsthand that nobody is really talking about. So I wanted to share some thoughts on this and the potential to completely change SoFi's business as we know it today. Let's jump right in. Okay, so if you haven't seen the latest SoFi Weekly episode, I posted a recap video summarizing the key topics that's attached in my channel, and I'll also attach it at the end of this video so it's easy for you to find. So make sure to watch it next for all the insights from Matt Flo, who we had as a guest on the podcast last night. Matt shared with us some work that he's doing for SoFi's team, particularly with financial services in ideating and in testing new ideas for product launches, along with other beta groups of insiders from diverse backgrounds. It sounds like Matt is part of a customer advisory board, which is fairly common in product led organizations, where you gather a group of customers or a group of insiders and you have them essentially as a sounding board for your current product offerings to serve as a beta group for testing and also for new ideas for what they can launch next. This is common practice in a lot of organizations. In fact, I've been a part of creating advisory boards and working with advisory boards closely. And in my personal experience, I found them to be very crucial for product vision and innovation because they tend to be the power users of your product today. And I just got finished editing the SoFi Weekly highlights video earlier tonight. So much of this is top of mind for me, but also Matt was an ideal guest to have on the podcast because of my product background. It really spoke to SoFi's internal culture in terms of their methodology, in terms of releasing new products in a very measured way. Matt spoke about the ideation process, and to me, that resembled this double diamond framework. And without getting too technical, I want to explain the double diamond framework because I think it's going to be important to frame much of our discussion. It's a design framework that we use in the product space, particularly in design thinking and ideation. And I'll very quickly walk you through the model, but at a high level, the steps here are very similar across the board. So very quickly, this double diamond framework, it helps teams define and solve products creatively and systematically. It mainly consists of two main phases. Each diamond represents a process of diverging, which is expanding possibilities, and then converging, so narrowing down into a specific direction. And this allows for thorough exploration of both problems and solutions. So essentially, the first phase is all around exploring and gathering insights around the problem. And you do this through research and user understanding, and then you narrow down all those findings to clearly define a core problem that we're trying to solve. And then the second diamond is around the solutioning. So we brainstorm and we prototype multiple solutions. So again, here we're diverging. Again, it's expanding the possibilities. And then we fine tune and implement the best solution. So we come back and we converge on a solution. Matt was talking a little bit about this where they would break out into smaller groups and they would ideate and they would essentially come out with like 12 ideas. And by the end of the week, they would come out with one idea that's the winner out of all of those 12. And then they would ladder that up to management. And then they would go and dive multiple layers deep into that one idea to essentially solution it further. To me, that really sounded like this double diamond approach where you're essentially diverging and having an open blue sky thinking in terms of saying, here's all the ideas that we could potentially come up with. And then you're diverging where you're essentially researching one idea that's the winner very, very heavily. And Matt mentioned through doing this exercise consistently, SoFi has gathered hundreds of ideas of potential new product innovations that they could release over years and years. He talked a lot about their approach to gathering feedback as well, with regards to having direct focus groups for specific demographics, flying people in to conduct primary research through interviews. So to me, it's of course no surprise that SoFi has a very rigorous and well-defined process for gathering feedback. It's exactly what you would want to see in a high-performing culture that isn't afraid to test different possibilities of what works and what doesn't work. However, one thing that really struck me, in addition to the methodology and the insights of new products being tested internally, were Matt's comments around Cash Coach. So Cash Coach is a new product that's internally being tested at SoFi. And a few weeks ago, Anthony Noto commented on it at the Goldman Sachs Fireside Conference. He explained how it worked. And here I'll play a clip of Anthony Noto talking about Cash Coach at a very, very high level.
We're testing something internally with our employees called Cash Coach. So in my app right now, I can click on Cash Coach each morning. It looks at all the cash I have across all of my SoFi products. And if I have other products connected via Relay, it looks at the cash there as well and actually gives me suggestions on how I could better optimize my cash. As an example, this morning, I clicked on it and it said, you have excess cash and you have $1,659 of outstanding balance on your credit card. You should pay it off now. So I clicked on that button and I paid off my credit card debt this morning. If you had $10,000 sitting in a checking account getting 0.5% interest, it would explain to you that our savings accounts at 4.5% interest. You could also invest in diversified way through ETFs or through robo accounts. And so that's a product on top of products. We couldn't create that product without having everything else, Relay and checking and savings, credit card, et cetera.
Now, I've talked about Cash Coach in previous videos. In fact, I'll link that video at the end of this one. And the initial feedback here was whether or not this would include any AI or machine learning. And initially, we thought that Cash Coach was going to be strictly rules-based, essentially a series of triggers. If this happens, then a certain action will follow. And that would be a very simplistic implementation of this product, which really led me to believe that this is more of a feature than it's an actual product. It's a nice to have and not a need to have. However, that really changed in my mind after Matt's comments clarified some things. And essentially, the thing that changed it in my mind was that Matt confirmed that this was going to be AI based. And I think this could really be the heart that drives a foundational shift in SoFi's user experience and ultimately trickles down to how they're going to be maintaining those aggressive growth rates on financial services, right? We know SoFi currently has 80+% growth rates on financial services. We've commented on this in the past that these growth rates would be challenging to maintain. But I think Matt's insights on Cash Coach make that possible if this is implemented in the right way. And so here, the key thing in my mind that changed around Cash Coach was how it operates. If it were a rule-based system, it would be a nice to have feature that's not really going to have a big impact in SoFi's growth story. But if it's an AI feature, which Matt confirmed that it will be, and it iteratively improves upon itself with new data that it feeds in, I think that has the potential to really change the dynamic for SoFi. And I specifically asked Matt this on SoFi's vision with regards to this product as to how it relates to their suite of products. Here's Matt talking about Cash Coach. Thought I saw somewhere that you had the beta for Cash Coach. How should we be thinking about this? Is this, one of those education features that's going to end up being a nothing burger, or is it a piece in a wider vision? Because when Anthony Noto was talking about it in the Goldman Sachs thing, he was talking about the whole concept of products on top of products.
Cash Coach is more of an AI product. It's not as simple as everyone thinks. It's not an if-then product. It looks at every account that you hook to Relay. It looks at your spending patterns. So when you open your vaults, you can set goals. And what we were talking about a couple weeks ago was we're going to add some features to the vaults. So you can say, I want to go to, and in this case, they said, I want to go to Bali. Well, how much does that cost? And when are you going to go? And then you put in those parameters. Then Cash Coach, at the end of the month, it'll say you have $1,800 left. So we suggest you it'll break it out into $1,000 into your emergency fund. You need to put $600 into your Bali account, and then you need to pay down this credit card with the remaining $200. It looks at the whole Relay experience, and it will figure out percentage rates on cards, the goals that you have set, and where you want to be. And then it will make suggestions on that discretionary income that's left over at the end of the month.
So I didn't know the AI piece. And I think that AI piece is really crucial to understanding the impact of this thing. To me, it sounds as though this could be the core of a wider shift in terms of how people leverage SoFi's technology. Like if I have an AI that's continuously training on my data, my goals, what I want to achieve, what my income is, what my expenses are, extrapolate that over time, multiply that by the entire user base, then you can come out with something that's really powerful that can totally change the dynamic for how people interact with their financial institution. Like, is that the long-term vision, or we're just not there yet? This is just something we're playing around with.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's their vision. This is one of their big products that they're really looking forward to, because back when SoFi was just doing student loans, the first thing they came out with was Relay. And that kind of was a precursor to the direction that they wanted to go. Cash Coach is something where they will look at your whole picture, but then you can say, well, I had $1,800 extra and it was a little bit extra this month. So you can go back in, you can adjust that. So, and then they give give you the best suggestions for that. So it's really kind of like calling a friend or mom or dad or a financial advisor or whoever it may be, where the everyday person can get suggestions for what they should be doing for this money. And it's really important to their future goals because of how they want the person to really experience SoFi. What should I do with this extra money? And that AI portion of it, I think it's a huge direction in the way that they want to go.
Now, you might be asking, okay, why is this significant? Well, simply put, if you're training a model which consistently improves over time and proactively provides insights around how to best allocate your excess surplus cash, it can very easily evolve into a product that fundamentally changes the dynamic of how you interact with your bank today. Because today, the model is reactive in the sense that you have a dashboard, I can log into my portal, everything is provided to me, all the tools are there on the dashboard, and the responsibility and the onus falls on the user to make the right decisions for their financial well-being. So I, as the user, know where I want to go, what my goals are, and I have to then research myself how I get there. How do I spend my excess cash? Do I pay off my credit card? Do I invest? Do I build an emergency fund? Do I save for that trip that I've been trying to save? All the responsibility falls on the user. The problem with that model is that the user doesn't necessarily always know what the optimal route is as to how they get to their goals. The average everyday consumer might not know that it's best to pay off high interest rate credit cards first before contributing to like an emergency fund or a savings account. The average consumer might not know that there's a more preferential interest rate on the savings account versus a checking account, for example. And so these types of things are education based that the system would know that the user currently does not know. And so, with this AI model now at the heart of the consumer banking experiences, consistently learning behavioral patterns around how am I spending my money? How am I saving my money? How does my income look? How do my expenses look on a monthly and a yearly basis? And then leveraging that data to create a user profile on me and my patterns, I think that has the potential to really be big because you're gathering information from Relay, you're gathering information from SoFi Money. And maybe if you're in the ecosystem, you're also a SoFi Plus user, you also have a couple of loans with SoFi, all of that information gets aggregated into that user profile, right? And you're very quickly getting to this proactive model of consumer banking, essentially having this robo financial advisor 24/7 who has all of the context that they need across your entire day, across your entire financial life, and is equipped with a rich knowledge base on how to optimize your unique financial situation with the goals that you want to achieve. And I think this shift from a reactive model that we live today to a proactive model is going to be unique to SoFi, and it can help hundreds of thousands of people make smarter financial decisions with a fraction of the thought required. And just to draw a parallel around how I've been thinking about this, and this could be right or wrong, and I'd love for you to comment in the comments on this video below. But how I thought about it was imagine a world 30 years ago where you didn't have a GPS system in your pocket and you have this physical map. I remember we were going on road trips. I would pull out the physical map from the glove compartment and I would look to draw a route for where we're going and what are we going to stop along the way to see, where are we going to stop to eat, how long is it going to take us to get there. All of that would be my responsibility, right? That's similar to how banking is today. You have all the information at your disposal with the internet, but you're ultimately the one who has to know where you want to go and know how to get there. What are the correct decisions to get you there? The problem is that sometimes you don't have all the information. And now imagine the world with Waze, right? You have Waze in your pocket. It has a GPS for you. It cuts down the amount of cognitive load probably by orders of magnitude because what it does is it layers in all this other information. What are other drivers doing on the road? What is the traffic going to be like? What roads are going to be closed due to construction? What's your speed limit? What's your estimated arrival time? Is there cops on the road? Are you driving too fast? How many stops do you want to add and how are you going to get there? Do you want to avoid toll routes or not? All of that is a few taps on your phone and it leverages all of this external information along with the personal context of where you want to go, what time you want to be there by, and the routes you want to stop along the way. And it cuts down the amount of effort and time by a human by orders of magnitude. It does all of the cognitive processing for you because it has all of that context. And the other piece here is that as the model is consistently training with humans and getting better, humans built a reliance on the software to the point where the software itself becomes this oracle, right? In the sense that the more frequently that Waze is consistently correct and gets me there on time in avoiding traffic, the more I end up trusting the system to the point where I don't doubt its instructions at all. There's times where Waze will take me down this random path and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to take that. I know the better path. But the more times that it actually gets me there correctly, I'm going to trust it implicitly. I'm going to trust it blindly in taking its directions. And I think this proactive approach will end up being similar for SoFi. Much of this video is like blue sky thinking, right? It's long dated, just thought process. But ultimately, I think it's going to be very similar in the sense that it'll take all of this information about you and it's going to pair that with where you want to go and what your goals are in your financial life and when you want to retire by and what you want to have, your average spending patterns to be, and make data-driven decisions about you at a deeper level than you could have made on your own. And over time, as consumers find they're becoming more efficient with the excess cash and the allocation of that cash, they're not going to question the recommendations that Cash Coach will provide them. And this builds an incredibly deep reliance on the system, and that's ultimately going to end up being unique. I doubt many financial institutions, especially on the legacy side, are working on similar products. And I think the financial institutions that are more modern, that could have the potential to work on similar products, will be facing difficulties because they don't have the complete suite of products that SoFi does, that the bank charter unlocks for them. They don't have Galileo. They don't have all of these pieces in SoFi's moat. And this is why I've been saying for a long time that SoFi's moat is their ecosystem, because their ecosystem plays a part in building products on top of products like Anthony Noto was talking about. So to me, Cash Coach and the vision for it, this entire proactive model of banking is going to be a step change, similar to how we went from physical maps to Waze, similar to how we're going from driving a car to full self-driving. And I think SoFi is really setting themselves up for that massive step change, and they're uniquely positioned to win that race when you consider all of the other ingredients that they have that other competitors don't have. Now, of course, all of this is speculative, and much of it is hopium, granted, because Cash Coach is not even live yet. But the fact that they're even thinking about leveraging AI and the positive implications about interlacing AI with the massive data advantage that they have from Relay across their entire suite of products all the way down to personal loans, I think that's something that shouldn't be taken very lightly. Of course, there's a ton of execution risk that has to go into it. And this is all long dated. It's not going to happen in the next 6 months or in the next year. But it's one of the competitive advantages that we've touted for SoFi for years across their ecosystem. And it's one example of how they're leveraging their ecosystem to further deepen their moat relative to their competitors. And ultimately, Anthony Noto's concept of building products on top of products, I think, has a solid potential to be a step change for how people interact with their bank. Anyways, these are just some high-level thoughts that I've been thinking about over the past 24 hours. I'm curious to hear what you think, so let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and it's made you rethink some concepts with regards to SoFi and their competitive advantage, subscribe to the channel for more and share this video out. And also, make sure to check out the SoFi Weekly Highlights episode, which I posted last night, which will be tagged at the end of this video. That includes the full interview with Matt Flo. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.